For those of you who don't know who Stephen Miller is, it's this guy. He was a senior advisor on policy and the director of speechwriting during Trump's time in the White House. I'm going to show you a clip from the spin room after the debate the other night where Stephen Miller loses his mind. You'll often hear me say, and others say, that Republicans often use fear-mongering to win votes, as opposed to championing legislative victories or policy initiatives they want to enact. No, they feel it's better to elicit fear and come at it from an emotional standpoint. The clip I'm going to show you is a long one, but I promise you it's worth it. The reporter is simply trying to ask Stephen Miller where he's getting his numbers from, and he won't answer the question. So he keeps asking the question. He won't answer it. He gets loud, he gets emotional, and he's just trying to elicit fear with his response as opposed to facts. Watch.
All these...
Day one.
All these criminal migrants that have been flooded in the country are going to be the first to get thrown out of here. I mean, you've seen case after case, these heartbreaking tragedies. Those ones are going to get found and deported first. And look at this Venezuelan gang. You have a Venezuelan gang that is taking over entire apartment buildings in Aurora, Colorado. And that's responsible, by the way, for some of the most heinous crimes that have happened all over the United States. The crime rate in Venezuela is down, I believe, a little bit over 60% over the last several years.
Are you trusting the official figures from the Venezuelan dictatorship?
Let's put it this way. If you're a dictator of a poor country with a high crime rate, wouldn't you send your criminals to our open border?
That wasn't my question. Are you trusting the figures of the dictatorships? Those are Maduro numbers.
I am believing that it is in the interest of a criminal dictator to let his criminals out of their jails and come to our country.
Do you have numbers, real numbers, not the dictatorship numbers?
The Venezuelan gangs that have, you've seen the CCTV footage. I have a question. Who do you think? Answer me this.
My family is from Venezuela. I know very well the situation of Caracas and many other cities.
Right, tell me, who were the people with the high-powered rifles in the hallway of that apartment building? Who were they?
They were gangsters from Venezuela.
Right. No American community.
But I was asking to you about figures, numbers,
what I'm
facts.
saying to you is the facts are the dead bodies. The facts are...
You said that Caracas has a lowest crime rate than the USA.
The facts are the mutilated bodies. The facts are the people in the morgues that are dead.
I was asking you about Caracas and the numbers in Caracas. Are you trusting the numbers of the dictatorship
I am trusting the fact that Kamala Harris is letting illegal immigrants into this country who are raping and murdering children.
I had been very respectful. Why are you yelling?
Do you know who Jocelyn Nungri is? Do you know who she is?
Do you know how many people is experiencing violence in Caracas?
Who is she? Who is Laken Riley?
Why are you yelling again?
Because I'm yelling because children are being raped and murdered.
I was just asking for figures, and you have not replied to me about those figures.
Murdered. Do you know who Kayla Hamilton is?
Do you trust the numbers of Nicolas Maduro? I'm asking again.
I trust a ruthless dictator will empty his prisons and send their criminals to our country.
So you trust his numbers?
The most dangerous gang in Venezuela is
now. Do you trust Nicolas Maduro?
I trust that he does not want his criminals to be...
So you believe in his numbers?
I believe he's sending his criminals to our country.
And do you think that the crime rate in Venezuela have decreased?
Do you not believe the law enforcement reports of Venezuelan gangs in this country?
I was asking for the Venezuelan government figures, not the figures here.
Are Venezuelan gangs in this country or not? Yes or no?
What are the figures that you say to say that in Caracas the number is lower than in the USA?
Are Venezuelan gangs in this country or not?
So you don't have numbers?
You know who has numbers? The Department of Homeland Security. You can ask Mayorkas for numbers. You can ask Director Wray for the numbers.
Sir,
I'm telling you.
You said that in Venezuela the crime rate is lower than the USA.
Yes, because
what are your numbers? That's my question.
Because the criminals are here now.
Those are Maduro's numbers.
I can tell you again that Border Patrol agents are encountering thousands
of trust Maduro numbers?
I trust the border agents in our country.
But I am not saying that Caracas has a lower crime rate.
Children are dead, and you are wasting my time.
No, I am not wasting your time. I'm asking for facts as a journalist.
Do you have any remorse for the dead children? Do you care all about the dead children?
Absolutely.
Then that's what I want to leave you with, is that Donald Trump will come to office.
I was just asking for figures.
Here's what's going to happen. Donald Trump is going to be elected president, and the migrant gangs are going to be sent home. Children's lives will be saved. And you know who will benefit the most? Are the working-class Hispanic communities that are besieged by gang violence.
So you don't have figures.
Public schools that are being overtaken by migrant gangs. You have MS-13 that is brutalizing children. You have Kayla Hamilton, who was a 20-year-old autistic girl who was raped and murdered, beaten to death. That will end. That will stop, and our children's lives will be saved. That is the most virtuous thing that can possibly be done. We are going to save the lives of our children. We will not let Kamala Harris condemn them to a life of misery, suffering, and death. Thank you.
I have not replied my question.
Stephen Miller owns stock in ICE contractor Palantir, a company powering deportations. White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller owns a massive stake in Palantir, which stands to make millions off of Donald Trump's sweeping immigration crackdown, according to the Project on Government Oversight. Over a dozen Trump appointees in the White House and Department of Homeland Security have owned stock in the controversial company, raising privacy concerns across the political spectrum.
I want to talk about Stephen Miller in the wake of these LA ICE enforcements. Stephen Miller, if you guys don't know, is Trump's deputy chief of staff, White House chief of staff on policy. He's the architect behind all of these mass deportations. He's the one who just last week met with ICE leaders saying we need to step up arrests. 3,000 a day is the target. Like, why aren't you at Home Depot and 7-Eleven parking lots? And lo and behold, the next weekend, ICE raided Home Depot parking lots all over LA. Stephen Miller is actually from LA. I'm from LA, born and raised. He went to Santa Monica Public Schools. I went to Santa Monica Public Schools, but we have an 8-year age gap. So thankfully, I never overlapped with him. But just to show you the kind of person that Stephen Miller is, just to show that this is core to his identity, he's always been like this. He's always hated Hispanic people. Let me read an article that he wrote in high school in his junior year in the Santa Monica school newspaper. It's called Political Correctness is Out of Control. This was written in 2001. My name is Stephen Miller. I'm a 16-year-old junior at Santa Monica High School, and I was recently a guest on the Larry Elder Show to discuss a rampant political correctness that has consumed Santa Monica High School. When I entered Samo High in 9th grade, I noticed a number of students lacked basic English skills. There are usually very few, if any, Hispanic students in my honors classes, despite the large number of Hispanic students that attend our school. Even so, pursuant to district policy, all announcements are written in both Spanish and English. By providing a crutch now, we are preventing Spanish speakers from standing on their own. Okay, and then he goes on to say, more complaining about things. Sadly, my school has forgotten all of this. This is why we do nothing for American holidays, but everything for Mexican holidays. So that's him submitting something to the paper. Another article has a quote from one of his previous high school classmates. It says, in both high school and college, he would repeatedly be observed throwing trash on the floor and then insisting that the custodial staff pick it up. Quote, am I the only one here who is sick and tired of being told to pick up my trash when we have plenty of janitors who are paid to do it for us? He just is fucking racist. That's what he is. And he's now in charge of our national policy on immigration. He is directing ICE to carry out arrests and deportations. So no, they're not just trying to get the criminals, the violent ones. There aren't 3,000 a day worth of violent, undocumented criminals in the United States. The cruelty is the point, as it has always been with the Trump administration, and they are just free to do that more now because you all voted.
So Stephen Miller only wants white people in America. Are we shocked? The crazy part is everybody knew this man was a white Christian nationalist, and you let him in. He's even more far right and more far white than Donald Trump. Trump even recognized his obsession when it came to immigrants. Stephen Miller said if it was up to him, only 100 million people would be in the country. That is only white people. White people only. Yeah, Project 2025 is looking real fucking real now, ain't it? I wonder who's really running the White House now. Because Trump said that he wasn't going to fuck with farms and hotel workers. But he's in that ass now. And I don't think it was him. For once, I didn't even think it was him. For all you non-white people that voted for Trump, how do you feel now that they're trying to ethnically cleanse us out of the fucking United States? I mean, it's going to be real hard to get rid of black folks because, you know, African Americans in particular, because we ain't got nowhere to go but here. But for everybody else, how the fuck do y'all feel now?
I'm a man of faith, Stephen, and I'm certainly not a man of fear. So let's just cut to the chase. Let's not get it twisted. Your administration, this administration, and the people who support it are making history on changing who we are as a multicultural society. Folks like Stephen Miller, Pete Hegseth, and Pam Bondi and others are showing us that they don't believe in the co-equal branches of government or the checks and balances within our society. And the people in the White House, in your little bubbles, you actually think that the aura of your chaos is sustainable. Think about it. Think about it. I want you to think about it. I mean, Trump is 80 years old, and you are in your mid-40s, and some of y'all are in your mid-50s. Y'all actually think, and that's young in the modern era, you actually think it's funny and entertaining for Fox News and other outlets to show how cruel you are, how incendiary you are to the American people. Oh yeah, let's just stick it to the libs. Okay, but think about the sustainability and all the wrongdoing that you're inflicting on the people. And you think that you're going to get away with this? I mean, in life, you always pay the piper, homie. Our history, or the world history, has shown this time and time and time again. You will not get away with what you're doing. The international community are watching us. Our kids are learning from us as the world look on in disgust. My message is this. Enjoy it now, Stephen Miller, because just as history has shown, a reckoning is coming and America is waking up. Okay? And when they do, look out, partner. Last time I checked, you're definitely not Donald Trump's age. You know, always remember, truth has no party. Be well.
So Stephen Miller only wants white people in America. Are we shocked? The crazy part is everybody knew this man was a white Christian nationalist, and you let him in. He's even more far right and more far white than Donald Trump. Trump even recognized his obsession when it came to immigrants. Stephen Miller said if it was up to him, only 100 million people would be in the country. That is only white people. White people only. Yeah, Project 2025 is looking real fucking real now, ain't it? I wonder who's really running the White House now. Because Trump said that he wasn't going to fuck with farms and hotel workers. But he's in that ass now. And I don't think it was him. For once, I didn't even think it was him. For all you non-white people that voted for Trump, how do you feel now that they're trying to ethically cleanse us out of the fucking United States? I mean, it's going to be real hard to get rid of black folks because, you know, African Americans in particular, because we ain't got nowhere to go but here. But for everybody else, how the fuck do y'all feel now?
I went to high school with Stephen Miller, and he's always been an evil little dweeb. Our biology teacher refused to give Stephen permission to handle the animals because she said that he was not fit to interact with living things. So she gave him a Tamagotchi for our animal unit, and he literally just sat in the corner all semester and starved it. One time in English class when we were reading Fahrenheit 451, Stephen began to weep. When the teacher asked why he was moved to tears, Stephen said that the book burning was so beautiful and that he couldn't hold back. He was also just overall a strange guy. Like, he would take those baby carrots and instead of like eating them normally at lunch, he would suck on them slowly. And he would eat them all day for like hours. The whole school kind of united around how much we disliked Stephen. Like, he tried to invade the Dungeons and Dragons club and take over their game, but they said they didn't want a totalitarian dungeon master, so the football players came to physically escort him out of the Dungeons and Dragons game. During AP Psychology, we had a whole unit on socially aberrant behavior, and part of that included taking a psychopath test. Stephen was always very defensive about it. He said, "I'm nothing like this. Don't make me take it." And she said, "I won't make you take the test even if you stop lurking." At the end of the day, Stephen really never did himself any favors. So he didn't get invited to a lot of parties. In fact, whenever we had a school party, everyone was invited except Stephen because he was so mean. So he would call the police and then show up at the house where the party was taking place. And then the police would look at him and say, "I see why nobody invited you to this party. We're not going anywhere. Please leave, you rat." So even the cops hated him. This is satire, but none of this would surprise me because this man is disappearing people. They are evil. Call your legislator, demand justice.
Am I the only one who is sick and tired of being told to pick up my trash? And we have plenty of janitors who are paid the
That's young Stephen Miller, and he's always been an asshole. He's Trump's deputy chief of staff for policy and homeland security advisor. He's also known as Trump's brain. Leaked emails show he's a white nationalist, which isn't surprising given that he's behind immigration policies like family separation and the Muslim travel ban. His emails show that in 2015 and 16, he promoted white nationalist books, websites, and conspiracies to editors at Breitbart, a far-right news site. More than 80% of the 900 plus emails reviewed focused on race or immigration, referring to the debunked conspiracy theory that non-white people are deliberately wiping white people off the planet. He referred to President Calvin Coolidge in his emails multiple times, backing his eugenics-based immigration policies once praised by Hitler. He was upset when some retailers stopped selling Confederate flags and symbols after the Charleston church shooting by white supremacist Dylan Roof, and encouraged Breitbart to create a counter-narrative. He often recommended articles from white nationalist websites like American Renaissance and Be There to highlight interracial crime. He pushed for coverage of The Camp of the Saints, a French novel loved by white nationalists for its racist depiction of non-white immigrants. He loves pushing false racist narratives so much that in 2017, as Trump's senior advisor, he reportedly blocked the release of a government study showing that refugees had a positive fiscal impact. But that's not all. He's friends with Richard Spencer, the most notorious white nationalist in the US. Spencer was a central figure to the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville in 2017. This guy went to high school with Miller and had a lot to say.
Stephen Miller was never bullied in high school. Stephen Miller was the bully. He bullied the kids who are already marginalized by our society, and he continues to do that from the White House today.
Breaking news, Stephen Miller, Deputy Chief of Staff to Donald Trump, has between $100,000 and $250,000 worth of Palantir stock in his child's account that has just been discovered. Why is this a big deal? Palantir is the company that ICE is using to help with all these deportations and with tracking immigrants. In addition, Palantir is the same company that they're now looking to build this massive tracking system for all of us using our personal data collected through Doge under Elon Musk. And this company is owned predominantly by Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel, who you may not know who he is, very involved with Heritage Foundation, with the far-right wealthy, as a billionaire, and he is the one who brought J.D. Vance into everything. He is the one that made J.D. Vance some of what he is, and definitely the one who put J.D. Vance where he is now politically. And all this is tied together, and it's needless to say always about money, but this was hidden in a child's stock account. And not quite sure how we found out about it, but it's breaking in the news as we speak now. So there you have it. Always money with these Republicans. If it's not money, they're doing something. I can't say that. Something else they shouldn't be doing. We'll leave it at that. Love to hear from my Democrats, my MAGAs, my crazies, my cuckoos, and my burned out light bulbs. $100,000 to $250,000 of Palantir stock in his child's account. Try to hide it. Looks like that looks like to me. What do you think?
1 million FBI man-hours spent on the border, Stephen? So you're right. This is the thing that gives me the greatest concern about the future of this country, is the millions of unvetted, unchecked, and just unknown foreign nationals who have been deposited into this country, not to mention the millions more visa overstays embedded into all of our communities, some operating at the direction and control of foreign governments, foreign enemies, foreign terrorist organizations, not to mention the cartels, which have spread so much bloodshed across this hemisphere, that do business with some of our worst adversaries. But it's why, Sean, and I'll say this now, it's why it's so important to pass the president's big, beautiful bill, is that legislation hires 10,000 new ICE agents.
If you're wondering why LA right now, look no further than this man. It's not just Stephen Miller's dead eyes and his frequent ticking that cause people to question his humanity. It's his lack of empathy. And it always baffles me that this man, a known white nationalist, has the nerve to think that he is genetically superior to anyone. Hatred wears a body down. For context, Stephen Miller is younger than me. And while I'm sure we will continue to debate Stephen Miller's humanity, one thing is clear. The energetic disruptions in his body are caused by deep imbalances. You see, tics themselves are a result of neurotransmitter imbalances. It is connected to the spewing of hatred. It gets aggravated as he gets more stressed, as his anxiety rises and his body rebels against his internal disgust. They used to keep Stephen Miller hidden, but now they've gotten so brazen that they trot him out on morning TV. That feeling that you feel when he comes up on your screen is not a mistake. It is your humanity rejecting something that is so deeply inhuman.
So it has been reported, just like we thought, that people in the administration have a financial interest in the deportations. And specifically today, June 25th, it was reported that Stephen Miller, the architect for these ICE raids, has $100,000 to $250,000 invested in Palantir, which is a company that creates the software for ICE. And I'm still waiting for somebody to report how much he has in Geo Group, which is the detention centers, the private detention centers, where they're not even feeding people, they're not even giving them beds or foods, and the government is paying them with our tax dollars. But obviously they have a financial interest as well as a racist interest in what's happening. And my hope is that the states will start prosecuting what is happening. Obviously, it's probably not going to happen in time being, but if we can continue to film the bounty hunters and film the people who are doing the kidnapping, because it's all for a financial interest, right? They wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for a financial interest. So let's assume that California is going to prosecute them. I'm a criminal defense attorney. I do jury trials. When we do jury trials, the prosecutor has to prove certain elements of the crime, right? So they have to prove certain things. And kidnapping. So, and I obviously, in all my textbooks and all my documents, I have the elements for all the crimes because I have to pull them up when I have a client. So for kidnapping, there's different types of kidnapping. Okay, so there's kidnapping, and kidnapping simply means, I'll get the elements for that because it's different. So the elements for kidnapping, just simple kidnapping. The defendant took, held, or detained another person by using force or instilling fear. Using that force or fear, the defendant moved the other person a substantial distance, and the other person did not consent to the movement, and the defendant did not actually or reasonably believe that the other person consented to the movement, right? That's simple kidnapping, which that's what we're observing happen. So under California law, right, if somebody is prosecuted and they're able to prove this, which for all of these unauthorized bounty hunters, California would be able to prove this against them, the maximum punishment would be 8 years in prison, in state prison, and they'd have to complete 85% of that, and it is a violent strike offense in California. Now, for kidnapping for ransom, which is what I believe that this is, because obviously as criminal attorneys we have to be able to identify what crimes are when they're being committed, or when we observe them, or when we read a police report, or when we see evidence in a case. In this case, kidnapping for ransom, which is Penal Code Section 209A, the prosecutors would have to prove that the defendant kidnapped the person, which we already have the elements for that. They detained that person, and when they acted, they intended to hold or detain the person. They detained the person for a ransom or a reward, or to get from a different person money or something valuable. And the last thing they have to prove is that the person kidnapped did not consent to being kidnapped. And of course, they can't reasonably believe that they consented to the kidnapping, which is easy, right? That's what they have to prove. That's what they have to prove. And do you know what the maximum punishment in California for somebody who is prosecuted for this? Life in prison without the possibility of parole. LWOP, that's what we call it, LWOP. Life in prison, you die in prison because you are taking human beings without their consent for a financial reward. So my hope is that the states will start prosecuting these kidnappers accordingly. I don't trust the federal government right now, but the states. And as you see in California, their punishment is pretty, it's pretty fair.
Stephen Miller is poised to make a fortune off of Trump's mass deportation agenda. According to Miller's brand new financial report, he bought between $100,000 and $250,000 in stock in Palantir, the surveillance tech company that's helping Trump carry out mass deportations. If you're not familiar, Palantir was created by right-wing billionaire Peter Thiel and named after the Seeing Stones in Lord of the Rings, which should piss off any Tolkien fan. Stephen Miller, Trump's chief Homeland Security advisor, bought the stock in Palantir after Trump left office, while he was still outlining Trump's mass deportation plan, and since then Palantir has raked in more than $900 million in government contracts. In fact, Palantir has become the top performing company on the S&P 500 in 2025, surging more than 80% this year alone. And just last month, the Trump administration tapped Palantir to build a massive database that will serve as a surveillance tool for the US government, storing our personal information, medical data, bank account numbers, and disability status. And we already know what Trump wants to do with it, use it to hunt down immigrants and punish his political enemies. That's why labor unions and civil rights groups have filed lawsuits to block it. Last month, more than a dozen former Palantir employees even signed an open letter to Silicon Valley urging them to resist the Trump administration's techno-authoritarian power grab. And here's the kicker. The guy helping design the policy behind Trump's mass surveillance state, Stephen Miller, stands to make a fortune off of it. Because who says that fascism can't be profitable?